Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. We are thrilled to have you. I cannot believe we're finishing out October, but this is a great time for us to review some of the changes that are coming up in our legislation pretty soon, actually. So we have here with us Daniel Kronk from Deck and Balcony Inspections, Inc. Hi, Daniel. Thanks for coming. And he's going to go over Senate Bill SB 721. The rules for decks and balconies have changed. There's also some other bonus information Daniel will be providing. He is an expert contractor for decades and now is also the owner of Deck and Balcony Inspections, Inc. So he would be the best person to talk about this topic. But before we get started, I'm just going to mention a couple of things. As usual, tomorrow I will be emailing you all the recording. So of course, take notes, but I will send it to you tomorrow, and also the PowerPoint slides so you could print those off, and also Daniel's information. So if you did have any follow-up questions for him, you could always contact him directly as well. The presentation is going to be about 40 minutes long today, and then after that, we're going to have some time for Q&A. So stick around. We'll try to keep you under the hour mark. And thank you again for being here. Daniel, I will pass it along to you to get started.
Okay, thank you, Alexandra. Hello, hi everybody, and welcome to my presentation on California's new deck and balcony law known as Senate Bill 721. Okay, so yeah, my name is Daniel Kronk. I have been around a while, just under 40 years in the construction industry as a structural building inspector and a general contractor. I'm also have been an apartment owner and landlord. I'm currently the president of Deck and Balcony Inspections, and I am your host for today's presentation. So what was the reason? What event happened that caused California Senate to draft and pass Senate Bill 721? The deck and balcony law was passed in response to the tragic loss of life that occurred when a balcony collapsed in Berkeley, California. This was at a student housing facility, and sadly, 6 college students lost their lives. The images in the slides are the remnants of what was left after the balcony collapse. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so in response to this tragedy, an investigation was launched just to find out just what was the cause. How did this balcony fail? The investigation revealed 3 key findings. The failure was caused by dry rot, finding number 1. Finding number 2 is that if trained personnel had conducted periodic inspections, the warning signs could have been detected. And finding number 3 is that the balcony failure was 100% avoidable. These are the findings that compelled the California Senate to draft and pass Senate Bill 721. So what does that mean to you as apartment owners and managers? What is now required of you? The deck and balcony law mandates that every apartment facilities with decks, balconies, entries, or walkways that are elevated more than 6 feet above the ground must now have safety inspections performed. The safety inspections must be completed no later than January 1st, 2025. That date, January 1, 2025, is an important one, and we will return to that shortly. Next click. Okay, all the inspections must be performed by personnel who are required or who are qualified to do so under the provisions of the law. The law defines qualified inspectors as one of the following: a California general contractor with a qualifying, you can click, with a qualifying B license and 5 years structural experience, a certified building inspector with a current certification, or a licensed architect and engineer. One important note, contractors who are planning to do any of the needed repairs cannot also perform the safety inspections. This would be a commingling of interests and is not allowed under the law. Next click. Okay. The required inspections must reoccur every 6 years. And as previously mentioned, they must be performed by personnel qualified to do so. A minimum 15% sample of the different types of decks, balconies, walkways, and entries must be inspected. It is up to the inspector as to which ones are selected for inspection. The inspection reports are required to be kept for a minimum of 2 inspection cycles. That's 12 years. The reports must be made available to jurisdictional officials upon request. Okay, everybody. Here comes the hammer and how hard it's going to hit. I have yet to see a compliance regulation that did not have penalties attached. This bill is no exception. Non-compliant facilities will risk fines and penalties. Local jurisdictions have been granted by the state to have the following authorities. They can assess fines from a minimum of $100 per day to a maximum of $500 per day for non-compliant facilities. It is up to each individual building department to determine the exact amount of that fine. Go ahead and click. If a civil fine or penalty has been assessed to a particular apartment facility, the local jurisdiction can assess a safety lien against the property. This has the same force and effect as a judgment lien. In plain English, if an apartment owner receives a bill for fines or penalties and it is not paid, the local jurisdiction can proceed with satisfying the lien through foreclosure. One last subject item here. It's not related to fines and penalties, but it's worth noting that in addition to the fines and penalties, it's worth noting that in the event your facility does fall into non-compliance, be sure to check with your insurance carrier regarding your liability in that event. Next slide. Okay, remember I said I would double back to the cutoff date of January 1, 2025. Well, if you're anything like me, I would think, wow, that's 3 years away. I have got lots of time. Well, for the like me's out there, here are a few things to consider. There are just under 500,000 apartment facilities in the state of California. Go ahead and click. And as of now, there are about 200 inspection companies actively performing Senate Bill 721 deck and balcony inspections. At that ratio, each inspector would need to complete over 800 inspections per year. That is just not possible. Inspectors' calendars will fill up quickly. We strongly recommend that you lock in your inspection sooner rather than later. Okay, so moving on to the reporting requirements. As outlined in the bill, each report has 3 primary requirements. The first is the inspection report must clearly present the condition of the inspected elevated element, and it must provide enough information so that the person reviewing the report can make informed decisions. Second, the report must estimate how long the inspected elements will hold up over time. This is a difficult one, as the life expectancy of any exterior wood framed element is wholly dependent on the frequency and quality of any scheduled maintenance is performed. At deck and balcony inspections, we set our clients up with a customized maintenance schedule. And as long as it is followed in a timely manner, there is no reason to expect any structural issues to arise between the 6-year inspection cycles. Third, to ensure a thorough inspection, the law allows inspectors to require additional inspections based on their initial test findings. One example of this is destructive testing. The reason for this option is on the table is because balconies are often built with a type of construction known as cantilevered framing. It is extremely common for this type of framing to be concealed by a soffit covering on its underside. This creates what we call in the industry concealed framing cavities. It is also the same type of framing that failed in the Berkeley tragedy. If a field inspector is concerned about the condition of the supporting framework, he or she may want to remove a portion or all of the soffit covering in order to determine the integrity of the supporting frame. This is typically an added expense that is passed on to the apartment owner. The inspection company is required to deliver a full report that satisfies these 3 main requirements within 45 days of the inspection. Okay, repairs required. If the inspection reveals that repairs are required, the inspector must clearly classify the findings under one of 2 categories. Category 1, and those are repairs that are deemed immediate action required. Those pose an imminent risk to life and safety. An example of that could be a loose deck rail that would break when a person leaned against it, or it could be extensive dry rot that has weakened the structural integrity of the supporting frame. The second type of repair is called repairs required. This includes anything that cannot be cured by maintenance and is not yet a threat to life and safety. An example of this could be the beginning stages of dry rot in a deck rail, post, or deck board. Go ahead and click. Okay. So what happens if during the inspection there are items found that fall under the immediate action required category? Within 15 days of the inspection, the inspector must provide a copy of the findings to the property owner and to the local building department. We always alert the owner first, usually a day or 2 after the inspection. This gives the owner the opportunity to be proactive, not reactive in your response. If you go in and apply for your permit first, before they come looking for you, in the eyes of the building department, that is everything. The owner is required to immediately inform the affected tenant and to secure the area if needed so that access is prevented. If repairs are not completed in 180 days, we, the inspectors, are required to send a 30-day notice to the property owner and to the local building department. As a service to our clients, we always send a 90-day reminder before the cutoff date. As previously mentioned, being proactive with the building department is everything. After the 30 days have expired, and if the repairs are still not complete, a lien against the title of the property will be filed and they will begin assessing daily penalties. Okay, the next finding, the repairs required. If we find the second category, a different set of compliance rules apply. The owner has 120 days to obtain a building permit for the needed repairs. Once the permit is obtained, the owner has 120 days to make the required repairs. And just like with the immediate action required category, if 180 days pass without any action, the inspector must serve a 30-day notice. Once again, if repairs are not complete within the 30 days, the building department proceeds with a safety lien and daily fines. Okay, so this wraps up the 721 law requirements portion of this presentation, including all the hiccups at the beginning of the show. Are there any questions that we have on what we have covered so far?
I do see a question here from Nataya regarding cost and what the cost would be to inspect a triplex where each unit has a second balcony. She says, thank you for your help. Are you going to get into that later on in the presentation, or would you be able to provide that now?
I can go ahead and address that now. Depending upon the size and quantity of balconies, range is for, it's difficult with a facility with that few balconies because you have your mobilization fee. So inspections, we haven't had any run under $1,000 and we haven't had any run above $8,000, and it's all relative to the size of the facility and how many balconies they have and the condition of the balconies.
Okay, that's a good range there to think about. We have also a couple people, Jerry and John, asking if this law applies to single family residences that are rented out as rentals that have balconies. Do you know about that?
No,
Okay.
it does not apply. Yeah, you got to have 3 or more units.
Okay, so it would be a triplex or larger?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and Rhonda asking, who is responsible if it's a condo with an HOA?
Okay, the condominiums are covered under a different law, and they have different requirements as far as the inspectors. Condominiums do require architects or engineers to perform the inspections. I am not, so we do not do the condominium inspections at this time. We are planning to begin condominiums in the next month or so, but right now we do not cover those inspections.
Okay, Tom asking, does any of this apply to second or third level walkways, much like motel style common walkways?
Absolutely. Walkways, entries, balconies, they all apply.
Okay, perfect. So I think that wraps up the questions so far. So we can keep going, and then please put in your questions if you have more. We're going to stop again in just a little bit with more questions. In the meantime, though, I think it might be a good time to issue out a poll question here. I have here the ebook that you so generously are offering everyone. If you want, I could launch that now and see if anybody wants your ebook. Would you like me to do that now, Daniel, or would you like me to wait until the very end?
Sure, that's fine. Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and launch that now. You can answer that. It's an ebook that Daniel wrote about maintenance tips guaranteed to add years to an apartment's wooden exterior. This would probably apply to a lot of you. So go ahead and say yes if you'd like us to email that to you. And in the meantime, Daniel, I'll have you continue with the presentation while people answer that.
Okay, thank you everybody for your questions, and thank you, Alexandra, for all your help. Okay, so let's take a look here. You can go ahead and advance. There we go. Thank you, Alexandria. The industry standard, currently the industry standard for achieving Senate Bill 721 compliance, this is how everybody else in the industry is doing their reports, is that first you find yourself an inspector who is willing and able, you go ahead and click. Thank you. Who is willing and able to come to your property and perform an inspection. Okay, click. They do the inspection, and when the report is ready, you receive a bill. Click. When paid, you receive a copy of your report. And 6 years later, you get to do that all over again. And 6 years after that, again and again. You are literally a hamster in a wheel of compliance and regulation. So, what if there was a better way? What if somebody invented a simpler, easier way to program compliance? And what if you never had to pay that pesky 6-year inspection fee ever again? Well, let me show you what we have done. At deck and balcony inspections, we do things a bit differently. After watching the process of implementation of this new law, we noticed some things that not only could be, but should be done differently. We spent the better part of a year developing a proprietary inspection and reporting software that allows us to provide apartment owners and managers distinct advantages not found elsewhere in the industry, both in respects inspections and reporting. Here are a few examples of what we provide. And example one is on the screen, and that is our software interfaces with micro endoscopes that allow our inspectors to see deep within concealed framing cavities. If you recall that inspectors may require additional inspections, including destructive testing, our micro endoscopes all but eliminate the need for that type of invasive testing. Most of the time, all we need to do is drill a few quarter-inch holes and take a peek inside. The process is simple, fast, and requires no additional expense to the property owner. Our software, next slide, our software also integrates with moisture sensors that can detect if moisture has penetrated the exterior protective coatings. Moisture intrusion is the #1 cause of destructive dry rot. We also use infrared cameras, which can pinpoint the sources of moisture penetration. In addition, our software requires that during the inspection, each and every finding be assigned a color-coded rating. This one step allows us to do some amazing things with our reporting capabilities. So let's take a look. With every inspection, we provide you with two options for reviewing your report. Option A, we will send you a PDF copy of your report when it is ready, just like everybody else. Or there's option B, our interactive reporting system. Here's how that works. When your report is ready, we provide you with your very own portal. Here you have access to your report that is safely stored on our cloud servers. Once logged in, your dashboard provides access to multiple options for viewing and working with your report. Let's start with the view, download your report, your inspection report. By clicking the top button, you have the option to view or download your report from our server. By clicking View My Report, one more click. The cover sheet of the report is the first page you will see. And if you are an owner with multiple properties, you will see multiple cover sheets on this page. From here, we're going to drill down and take a look at some of the interactive reporting features. The first advantage is a summary page at the beginning of the report. Here, you will find icons that represent each individual inspected area. Each icon has two pieces of information. The location of the inspection, which is represented by the unit number, and the urgency of the finding, represented by the icon color. As you can see, the icons are arranged in order of urgency. This arrangement is valuable for management and maintenance personnel. With just a quick glance, you can see the location and urgency of all the inspected areas. So using Unit 42 as an example, each icon is also a direct link to the inspected area associated with that icon. Instead of searching through pages and pages of a thick report, just one click takes you to the inspection result associated to that icon. This process can be repeated with any icon on that page. Just 2 clicks takes you from the cover page to the heart of any issue. Before we move on, there's one more powerful interactive reporting feature that we would like to demonstrate, and that is the Update My Current Report option. The industry standard of a completed report in a PDF version only reflects the condition of the inspected area at the time of inspection. But what about 6 months post-inspection? 1 year, 3 years? Is that report still an accurate representation of the previously inspected areas? Absolutely not. There are the accumulative effects of time and weather. Maybe repairs have been made. The facility's condition may have also changed with regular maintenance or lack of it. For better or worse, all of these items will have a significant effect on the facility's exterior elements. Wouldn't it be helpful to always have an up-to-date report when making maintenance and budgeting decisions? By clicking the Update Report, a form is provided to upload records of any repair work or maintenance that has been performed. Once those records are uploaded, a new current version of the report is generated, and a date-stamped previous version of the original report is automatically saved and can still be accessed by, go ahead and click. There we go. View, download my previous report. This is much the same way you can review previous month's bank statements when you log onto your bank's website. Okay, you can click now. These are just 2 examples of how our robust interactive reporting system gives you much more control and flexibility when tracking your inspections and the work you do to maintain your property. Did I mention our interactive version costs less than the standard PDF reporting version? Well, yes, it does. In fact, it's 20% less. Go ahead and click. Our interactive reporting system with maintenance and time reminders is designed to add years to the life expectancy of your facility's exteriors. You can click. It is our desire to build and develop an ongoing relationship so that you can be proactive, not reactive, with respect to your facility's maintenance. And this is all the while keeping you compliant to California's deck and balcony laws. After the first discounted inspection fee, we set you up as a member. As a member, you receive all of the previously mentioned benefits, and you will never have to pay a 6-year inspection fee again. There are so many more features that our system has to offer, but there's just not time to cover them all in this presentation. If you would like to know more, gladly email us or visit our webpage and we will get back to you.
Yeah, and I think this might be a good idea for the last poll question, although we do have more coming. There's an additional, I think, few slides I saw about San Francisco, so please stick around for that, and we do have more questions. I did put up a poll question. If you do want to do the complimentary consultation with Daniel, this would be a great way for me to connect you with him. So if you want, I can do that for you pretty conveniently. I'll leave that up for you, email or phone, whichever you prefer. So let me do some questions here, because we do have a few that came up about, how about this or how about that? Does this need to be inspected? So Scott is asking, how about an apartment with one deck over the laundry room structure?
Okay, so the rule is that if it's an elevated element and it is an exterior elevated element and not part of the conditioned space, then it must be inspected. Again, looking at facilities that have 3 or more rental units.
Okay, Francine asking, so this new law does not apply to interior stairs or lofts?
If it is, again, if it's inside conditioned space. So if
Gotcha.
it's exterior stairs or exterior lofts and exposed to the elements and weather, that is what they're looking to resolve here, is that how the weather affects exterior elevated elements.
And just to confirm, someone else asking, this is just California, correct? Due to that Berkeley tragedy that happened.
That is correct. That's what started it all. Yes.
Okay. Do concrete stairways need inspections?
Yes, they do. They're part of the
Okay.
inspected elements. Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Does this apply to stairways which are interior but start at the ground level? So that might be like partially covered stairway.
That's, yeah, would need more information. Maybe a picture would be helpful. But if, again, if it's exterior, it has to be inspected. If it's interior, it does not. Again, the rule or the go no go is it conditioned? I mean, are you able to cool and heat the area and as part of the living space?
Yeah, and I think ultimately, if you guys have questions about, whether or not your particular units need to be inspected, Daniel would be the person to, look at it. I think sending a picture is an excellent suggestion. So then you could say yes or no pretty easily. I'm sure you've seen it all. So, okay, so let's see here if I have any other questions in the chat that came up. Okay, Art is asking, will an entity as large as LA City incorporate this inspection into its systematic code enforcement program, the SCEP? Or will we be using a recommended third party like Dan for inspection work and reporting? So do you know about that, Dan?
Correct. Yeah. So the local jurisdiction cannot also inspect for the deck and balcony inspections. As defined in the law, it either has to be a certified inspector, but if you're an inspector, you can't inspect in your own jurisdiction. So if you're currently actively employed as inspector, then you cannot perform the SB 721 balcony inspections in your jurisdiction. You could go outside your jurisdiction and perform as an independent inspector, but not in the same area. So if you're an LA inspector, you could not inspect LA decks and balconies.
Thank you for the clarification. Dana, another good question. Can you use this testing system on a condo complex of individually owned units? But I think you had mentioned that condos are different anyway,
They are
right?
the law that Senate Bill 326 is a bit differently. They have different requirements. They do still require the destructive testing if needed, and the micro endoscopes is a great add-on for that. And again, we expect to be doing 326 inspections within the next month.
I'm glad to hear that. Also, does this bill require a certain height for the balcony wall or wrought iron on elevated areas to be less than 4 inches between the bars?
Okay, yeah, so code is that a 4-inch sphere cannot pass anywhere through the rails, and that is below. So if the rails are raised higher than 4 inches above the deck surface, that is too high. The deck rail has a minimum height of 44 inches, 42 inches. And that's for decks and balconies that are, and the inspection of the law is for decks and balconies that are more than 6 feet above the ground.
Gotcha. Okay. And Nellie also wants to confirm that this only applies to 3-tier balconies.
I'm not sure what a 3-tier balcony is.
Yeah, I don't know if she means 3 stories, but it seems like it doesn't matter as long as there's a balcony,
Yeah, as long as
elevated.
as long as it's a deck, balcony, walkway, or entry, and it's more than 6 feet above the ground level, then
6
it's
feet.
required.
Mhm.
And that doesn't matter if it's 6 feet or 600 feet.
Okay, all right. Natalia was asking you to repeat a question, but we can get back to her, I think, separately if she didn't hear the first time the question was answered. Dick was asking here, does your company do all of California?
Yes, we do. Mhm.
Wonderful. And if the balcony is all metal, are they required to be inspected as well?
Depends on your jurisdiction.
Mm,
Currently, the state law is addressing wood balconies. San Francisco addresses metal. Berkeley addresses metal. So again, it's you got to look into your local jurisdiction. They may have metal balconies included.
Okay, Erica also asking here if this is going to be recorded and sent. She missed the beginning. Yes, everyone, if you didn't hear me at the beginning, we will be sending you the recording tomorrow by email. I have your email because you registered for this webinar. So we will definitely send you anything that you missed tomorrow. John asking, what about stairs to the front and back door with a small porch?
Yes.
So yes, okay,
That's
gotcha.
required, yes.
All righty. So those wrap up the questions so far. Do you want to continue with the rest of the slides?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Let's keep going.
Okay, so moving on to San Francisco's deck and balcony law. San Francisco's housing code implemented 604, and it was put in place a few years before Senate Bill 721. So if you're a San Francisco landlord or management firm, there is a good chance that you have already encountered one inspection with this law. When comparing the two laws, there were some similarities and there are a lot of differences. From a compliance standpoint, it would be nice if both laws were carbon copies of each other. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So let's start with the similarities. Go ahead. Yes, they both do require apartment facilities to be inspected. However, the inspection process between the two is quite different, and we'll explain later. They both do require inspections of wood-framed exterior elevated elements. Next slide. They both allow contractors, architects, and engineers to perform the inspections, and that's where the similarities end. The differences between the two programs are many, and they are as follows. In addition to apartment facilities, the San Francisco Housing Code also requires hotels and motels to have their exterior elevated elements inspected. To me, this just makes good sense. The methods of construction and the risk to humans is identical. I'm not sure why Senate Bill 721 did not include this one. Next click. Again, there are a lot of metal decks and balconies in the state of California. I'm not sure why San Francisco Housing Code included it and SB 721 did not. San Francisco Housing Code does not allow certified building to perform the inspections. However, they do allow structural pest inspectors to perform the inspections. The San Francisco Housing Code requires that inspections reoccur every 5 years. SB 721 requires inspections every 6 years. San Francisco Housing Code also includes fire escapes into the inspection list, where 721 does not. This one is a biggie. San Francisco Housing Code requires that 100% of the elements to be inspected, where Senate Bill 721 requires a 15% sampling. San Francisco Housing Code requires that the inspection company sign an affidavit to the building department upon completion. In the affidavit, it requires that we inspectors state by our signature that the inspected elements are free of defects and in general working order and will remain that way for 5 years. Please allow yourself some time for any unforeseen repairs. In the area of COVID, things just take longer. The building department will initiate code enforcement measures against non-compliant facilities, including denial of occupancy certifications for existing tenants. This is one of the ways they confirm if you have or have not been inspected. Before issued, the occupancy cert triggers a San Francisco Housing Code 604 compliance check. Okay, to summarize 604, if you have rental properties in San Francisco, it is important to understand that compliance with one program does not automatically mean you are in compliance with the other. So just because you're already San Francisco Housing Code compliant doesn't mean that you have met the requirements of Senate Bill 721. My personal experience with regard to discussions I've had with San Francisco building officials is that they are firing on all cylinders when it comes to SFHC 604 compliance, and they're still a little sketchy when it comes to Senate Bill 721. Next slide. Okay, if you're thinking right now that this is complicated, you're right, it is. The good news is we understand both and can help. We usually combine both inspections in one report and can often complete both with one visit. Okay, to summarize both programs, both programs require recurring inspection. Compliance with one does not guarantee compliance with the other, and we can help with both. Both laws trigger fines and penalties, and they use them as a means of compliance. Don't wait till it's too late. We are currently accepting appointments for both programs. And we're here to help. Call us, send us an email, fill out a contact form. It all works. And just in case you're wondering, these are the 3 ways you can contact us. If you would like more questions about anything we offer or have any questions about this presentation, please let us know. Next click. One more click.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
questions.
I just want to drop something in here real quick. If you check
Sure.
your chat box, there should be 2 links for additional information about both laws and 1 link for a copy of this presentation.
Oh, great. Well, we'll take those links and put them in the follow-up email as well. I always love sharing resources for people who want to do a little extra digging after. We do have a few more questions that came in, so we can answer those. Thank you guys for sticking around. Oh, and also a link to the presentation. Thank you for including that, Daniel. So Michael here, he is asking, did I hear correctly that the building owner must complete all repairs within 30 days of receipt of the inspection report?
That is for if it is emergency action required, you must have a permit. You must have your permit by that date.
I see.
And then within what you're required to do immediately is upon receipt of the report, take the safety or the appropriate safety measures. That includes sectioning off the area so that tenants can't access it, notifying the tenant that they have an area that is not safe to occupy, and then immediately begin the permit procedures.
Wow,
And
that
then
seems like a pretty short timeline.
it is because
Wow.
it's about safety. They don't want to have any reoccurrence of
Mhm.
Berkeley. And also that includes that if there's any emergency showing up that might need to be performed, if the deck is that far along, then in its deterioration, then they would also have to perform some immediate shoring while they're waiting for the permit to clear.
Okay, and then would the owner then be required to perform a second inspection after that?
What we do is that they have to have the building department, they have to pull a permit. And with the decks these days, 9 times out of 10, they're required to have engineering. So you have a building permit, inspections, and engineering. We allow them to update on our system via the interactive reporting feature so they don't have to incur additional inspection fee. But we do require them to submit the engineering and the final signed off inspection report from the building inspector.
Okay, thank you for the clarification on that. Linda asking, is there a requirement for an inspection to be done if the building is being sold? If so, do you do inspections for potential buyers?
Yes, it is required by law as part of the escrow process that the building has to have a completed SB 721 inspection performed, and we do provide that service.
Wonderful. Tom asking, what about metal railings that are grandfathered in and in good condition, but not to the current or latest codes regarding the vertical rails or the height of the horizontal rails? In San Jose, he says this is the case where grandfathering is applicable, and that satisfies the local code enforcement. Does this latest piece of legislation have grandfathering as well?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. We inspect to applicable standards. So if that building or that structure was in compliance within the era of which it was built, so let's say it was built in the mid 80s. The 80s allowed, I believe it was a 7 or 8 inch space between the rails, and they only required a 36-inch height for the top of the rail. As long as it was compliant within that era when it was built, then we can't compel them to make any changes as a result of this law. What triggers compliance to the new code requirements of the 4-inch is any work that is done on any element. So if he had dry rot, for example, and his balcony was unsafe and had to do a deck and balcony replacement, then he would also then at that point have to change his rails to the 4-inch requirements.
Okay, good. Because Tom said here he was a little worried that owners would have to rebuild their properties from this. So it sounds like it's sort of, if it needs inspect more, further work done and replacement, then that new balcony would have to
Correct.
comply.
Yeah, there's two instances when that would occur: the immediate action required, and then also the repairs required. Any repair that you perform on a balcony that you pull a permit to, that's when it's going to trigger the rail change.
Okay, great. Tom, sorry, I didn't read word for word in the interest of time what you wrote, but I hope I captured the gist of it. If not, feel free to contact Daniel directly. Okay, let me see here in the chat here. Again, so sorry, Tom. I'd be happy to share your entire question in the chat if you would like, so everybody can see your entire paragraph here. I will drop it in for everyone. I don't want you to feel like I am ignoring you or anything like that. So everyone can see what you wrote there in the chat. Now, let's go to the chat and see if there's anything else. Does your company prepare plans and specs for the building permit? If not, do you have a contractor referral list?
Again, as an inspector, I'm not allowed to do any of the repairs. That includes the prep to get a permit as far as the plans. Also, I can't refer any contractors. I know a lot of good ones. I just cannot. It would be a commingling of interest again. And under the provisions of the law, all I can do is the inspection of the deck and the balconies, and then provide any relative or relevant maintenance requirements.
Okay, great. I also put back the contact information. I did see someone asked to see that again, so you can go ahead and write it down in case you didn't get a chance to originally. Let's see here. Tony asking, I think there might be a typo, but something about a recording. Yes, I will be sending a recording. You don't need to log into anything. It's going to be a link directly to the video, so you don't have to log into your account or Zoom or anything like that. If you are on right now, it will be sent to you directly tomorrow in about 24 hours, okay? All right, so I think that wraps up all the questions, unless I might have missed one. Please let me know. I think sometimes they can get a little lost in the chat, but so far I think that's it. So thank you so much, Daniel. You kept us under the hour mark and provided us with a ton of information. I know when you first reached out to us, I was really astonished at how steep the fees can be for not complying, and just how underserviced this could be, because there's so many apartment buildings and there's so few inspectors in California. And so I'm really glad that you were able to come on and tell our members about this right now, which is actually a really good time to start planning for, the next couple of years.
Oh, okay. And thank you, Alexandra, for hosting this presentation also. Just wanted to, one last point, that everybody keep an eye on your inboxes. I will be sending all attendees my copy of Maintaining Your Apartment Exteriors.
Okay, great. Everyone have a wonderful day. I will be in touch with you tomorrow. Take care.